Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope you guys are all having a great Friday so far. Really had fun on the podcast yesterday. Got some good feedback from people. It's all in fun, me making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're obviously a good team, and but onto the point here, it's in the name. We get to it, and it's. I'm not gonna. Again, I don't kiss ass for no reason. You got to earn it for me to say that you're a great team, and I don't think the Toronto Maple Leafs have done enough yet for me to do that. So I just had to address it off the top. So Leafs Nation, you're probably mad at me today, and you're probably a little sour, but there's always Tim and Sid and Overdrive and those shows where you can hear great things about Toronto 24/7. So tune back in here when you want the full objectivity, and when you're a fan and you just want to hear great things, tune in there so you can listen to both. So that's kind of my advice for the day. Last night in the NHL, a lot of action. Obviously some games that didn't involve Canadian teams that I'm going to talk about today that were of interest to me. And I'm also going to talk about the Australian Open. Really a busy night down under. Currently, Novak Djokovic is in the fifth set against Taylor Fritz. Injured himself about the 1-1 the third set. He pulled his groin or something. Again, tennis, I think you can use injuries a little much more than people like to think. They use injuries whenever they lose a match. I mean, we've seen that for years. But Djokovic is in the fifth set. If he wins or loses while I'm live here, I'll keep you guys posted. But Dominic Thiem coming back from 2 sets down to Nick Kyrgios last night. Serena Williams winning. I'll mention the all-Canadian matchup that went at about 4 a.m. this morning. So a lot happening in the world of sports. Also, a great start to the Pebble Beach Pro-Am for a lot of guys. Yes, Jordan Spieth, after a good weekend at Waste Management, he seems to be finding his game a little bit. That's a good thing for golf. I think Spieth, obviously, after that Augusta meltdown, he never really found his game again. It's been a couple of years of him, missing a lot of cuts, yelling at caddies, firing caddies, and being the quote unquote wonderkind so early in his life. I think it really hurt him. And, I hope he can find it because he's an intriguing guy. He's a good golfer and obviously an intriguing guy in the sport. But, Patrick Cantlay, great day yesterday. He leads the Pebble Beach Pro-Am by a stroke heading into today. So we'll see what happens there. But last night, there's a bunch of games, and I said, which one am I going to focus on tonight? And what I do is I put one game on my TV, and then I get my computer out and I put one on there. So I had the Florida Tampa Bay game on my TV, and then my laptop, I had the Pens Isles. The Florida Panthers, because of the Central Division and all this COVID, it's been so, it's gone unnoticed how good they've been playing this year. Just a few players that really come to mind. Carter Verhaeghe. If I say Carter Verhaeghe, most people are like, what? Who's Carter Verhaeghe? And for good reason. I mean, he hasn't really done a lot in the NHL. He played last year in Tampa Bay, scored 9 goals in 52 games. He really didn't make a big impact. This year, he's already got 7 goals for the Florida Panthers. He's a point per game player after 11 games. Is he going to be a point per game player all year? Probably not. But we're seeing these guys that you wouldn't think of contribute. Alexander Wenberg at Columbus Castoff, who didn't get along with Torts, but he's coming to Florida. He's playing in a higher role, and he's finding some success. Also, Patrick Hornquist. This Pittsburgh trade, I think Jimmy Rutherford's a great GM. He's already in the Hall of Fame. But trading Hornquist for Michael Matheson didn't make any sense to me. You're taking a bad contract for a bad contract. I'd rather keep Hornquist than have a defensive liability, a guy who barely gives you anything offensively. Matheson has been a disaster in Pittsburgh. He's been injured. He hasn't been playing. Again, Hornquist, 11 games in, he's got 11 points on the season. He's scoring goals. He's contributing. Again, he's got something to prove. When you give a guy something to prove and he's got to go in and earn it and show people you made a mistake here, that's kind of the Florida Panthers team. I mentioned Wenberg, Marcus Nudavara, who is also in Columbus. He's playing good hockey for them. We're seeing a lot of guys just come in and earn it. Verhaeghe was in Tampa Bay last year. He didn't play. He was a black ace during the playoffs. Now he's in Florida. And earning it night in, night out. And last night, obviously Stamkos did not play last night, so I'll mention that off the top. But I mean, Tampa won a cup last year without Stamkos. Obviously, there's still no Kucherov, but they have that roster that's still stacked to the nines with great talent. And it really shocked me last night the way Florida, their compete level on pucks. They're not the most skilled team. They have a bunch of players that you'd be like, who is that? But they work hard, and that's the big thing for Florida. They can fly. They drafted Owen Tippett a few years ago, and he was a guy who was really criticized in junior for being a lazy goal scorer. He kind of had that Patrick Laine type grade on him, where he didn't give you full effort all the time. He had all the potential in the world, but it just didn't come together because his work ethic was not at the level it needed to be. And, for him last night on the first goal, he's working down below. He gets a shot saved by Vasilevsky. He doesn't give up. He battles behind the net, gets the puck, separates himself from the D, throws the puck right out in front. And who's wide open is Frank Vetrano, who puts it between the legs of Vasilevsky. It's 1-0. These simple things. Again, Vetrano was a Boston Castoff. He's here. They have a team full of guys that really haven't made a big splash in the NHL when it comes to, and these guys probably won't. I'm not saying these guys are going to be superstars. I think Owen Tippett has a lot of potential. I would keep my eye out for him when it comes to seeing what he can do at the NHL level consistently, because I think he's a very good player. But, Vetranos, the Verhaeghes, they're not going to be superstars. But if a team has that edge about them, I think in the Columbus Blue Jackets the last number of years, they certainly did not have the most talented team. I mean, they've had Seth Jones, one of the best defensemen in the past decade in the NHL, but you don't have that offensive firepower. In Game 5 against Toronto, Liam Foudy scored a goal. I mean, Liam Foudy was playing in his 5th game in his career in the NHL. That's tells you a lot about Columbus. They got like Scott Harringtons, these guys that aren't household names, but they win. And for Florida in the division they're in, a lot of the teams are built like them. Columbus is in their division. Columbus is honestly a tad bit more skilled than Florida for me. Huberdeau and Barkov are very elite players, but after that it drops. I mean, Ekblad has been, he was drafted first overall, has not been the defenseman that they thought they were getting. They also got Keith Yandel back there. They got Anton Strawman. They got some veteran defensemen that are good, but not, elite players is what I'd say. But for Florida, it's work ethic. They outworked Tampa Bay last night, a 5-2 win. They outworked them. They just brought, I mean, the first 10 minutes of the first period, and then the first 15 to the second, it was all Florida. Tampa would get and they would just force turnovers. And good defensemen. Sergachev was having a really rough night. McDonough, he's one of the best defensive defensemen there is in the game. He was turning pucks over. It was just forwards making defensemen make stupid decisions, and it led to goals. It led to power plays. It led to them scoring. Second period, draw a penalty. Aaron Ekblad, bomb from the point, goes in. Another thing about this team, they go to the net. Sometimes when you're not a skilled team, you're not going to be able to, go Austin Matthews bar down from far outside. You need to get to those dirty areas, get in the crease, whack away at pucks. And we saw that. Wenberg's goal, it was a 2-on-1. He goes to the net, he taps it home. On the Verhaeghe goal, he throws the puck from the right side half boards, hits off a D skate, back of the net. These things can happen. Again, that was just a lucky bounce, but getting to the front of the net is something that this team, you got to do. And, they obviously got Joel Quenneville, and he's one of the best coaches in the history of the game. Obviously, the first year is a bit of a disappointment. Bobrovsky really was a mess. He played well last night. And for me, if he can be a solid netminder, he's 4-0-1, not great numbers, under 900 save percentage coming into the game last night. But if he can just be a reliable, stable force for them, with this division, you never know. I really like Tampa. Obviously, they lose last night. They didn't look great. Braden Point potted a pair of goals, both power play goals. But 5-on-5, it was the Florida show. It was just domination. I'm not worried long-term about Tampa Bay after one loss. I'm not going to pump the brakes on them being the best team in the NHL because they still are. But for Florida, if Bobrovsky can give you stable goaltending, why can't you beat out the Columbuses of the world, the Carolinas? 4 teams make the playoffs. So you go Tampa, Carolina, Columbus. You're battling with Dallas, probably. That's the team you're right there with Dallas to make the playoffs. Why can't you be better than Dallas? I think they can. Talking to Shane Turner last night with Craig on Under Review, they got a lot of injuries there. They got Hudobin in net. They just coming off a cup final. They're going to be tired, I think, later in the season, playing all these games with them playing in the bubble until, as long as they did. Florida's going to be a fresher team at the latter stage of the season. So it was just an impressive game for me last night. I hadn't watched much of Florida. I've seen them play Detroit on the weekend a little bit, but again, that was hard to watch. But I like Florida. I think they're a team that's going to work hard. They're not going to outskill you, other than Huberdeau, Barkov, and a few others. But they're a workman-like team that you should watch out for, because you never know. You just never know when these teams are going to click. And I think Columbus have, and Q is certainly a good enough coach to get these guys in a position to succeed. But yeah, like I said, for Tampa Bay, I'm not worried about them. They play Florida again Saturday night, so that'll be an interesting rematch. But yeah, Q is doing great, but Tampa Bay is in good shape. Hopefully Stamkos will be back soon. He's a lower body injury, and I like their chances moving forward. Also last night I mentioned my other screen on the laptop. I was watching the Pens Isles, and that was the first game. They'll play again this weekend as well, but Penguins' first game since the hiring of Brian Burke and Ron Hextall. And the Penguins are in an interesting position because they're right with the Isles when it comes to battling for playoff position. They're both probably going to have to get the 4th spot in that East Division. I like Boston. Boston's been off to a great start. Obviously Washington, I have a lot of faith in, and Philly. I think they're better than Pittsburgh right now. Even Brian Burke admitted that before departing Sportsnet. And so last night, obviously, both big game for both teams. And I thought, the Islanders brought the game to them early. 2 potentially goal of the year. I mean, Casey Zizekas, who's a 4th-line center, just undressing the defense. Matt Barzal scoring another beauty late in the game. But again, Pittsburgh showed some of that championship resolve, which I still think is available on this team, where, Evgeny Malkin lets a clap bomb go from the point, 18 seconds left. It beats Varlamov. And that's kind of Pittsburgh MO. They don't give up. And I don't love their team. Again, they beat the Islanders, who have really been inconsistent this year, so I don't give much credence to that win. But a win's a win. But Crosby 5-on-5 hasn't been that great. He's come in spurts. I don't think he's been that fan. Malkin's hasn't been good this year. I think Letang. Again, I'm not a huge Chris Letang fan. Without Brian Dumoulin next to him as a D pair, I think it severely hurts him, obviously. But the Penguins, what do they do here? They don't have a first. They don't have picks really, and if they want to win this year to make trades, unless you're doing straight, player for player trade, which is difficult to do. I think it's gonna be tough for them to get better quickly here. It's for them, they don't have a big pipeline of prospects that you can really brag about. And I think for Brian Burke and Hextall, they're going to obviously evaluate the next couple of weeks, and can they get to that 4th spot? I think they certainly can. I predicted they would before the season. I like them more than I like the Islanders right now. I like them more than the Rangers, and obviously New Jersey and Buffalo fall a level below that. And if you can get Crosby into the playoffs, well, who knows? But my big fear for Pittsburgh is, well, you get that 4th spot. Again, you're not going to get a high draft pick, and, you lose in the first round to Boston. And Sidney Crosby is a great playoff performer, but he also got swept against Montreal last year in the play-in. That can't be forgotten. I mean, believe me, I won't let you forget that. It happened. So, it's boom or bust for Pittsburgh. Normally, they're a team that's going to win the cup, or they're going to go out in the first round in really an ugly fashion. I mean, they got swept by the Islanders 2 years ago. So after their cups, their playoff success has been none because they haven't won a game since they won the cup in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think Malkin has got to go. I think it'd be better for him if he does move on. Maybe he'll find his game a little more. I don't think he has a problem playing with Sid anymore. I don't think that's the issue. I've seen some reports that he wants to have his own team, and I think that's ridiculous. I mean, he's played with Crosby since he came into the league. They've won together. I think that's just another one of those media stories that are completely untrue, but you just write it because you want to get some clicks, a little clickbait action. But yeah, I think they can make the playoffs, but if you lose to Boston in 5 games, well, what did you really accomplish? You're just a year older and farther away from truly contending for a title. I think a rebuild of sorts is needed here. I do believe that they're going to have to make a decision. But if it was me, I would consult Crosby, of course, but as a general manager, you got to make your own decisions and stand on your own. Listening to players can only give you so far. Crosby's going to say, let's go all in. Let's try. But what are you going all in? You don't have to get really good players. You need to trade at least picks, prospects that teams think, well, he can be something. Pittsburgh doesn't even have that right now. So they're in a tricky spot. But like I said, I think they can make the playoffs without making a bunch of moves to improve. The Islanders, the Rangers, I just don't think they're there. So we'll see what happens. But Pittsburgh's an interesting spot. The Islanders, who had won a couple of games, they lose last night in the gimmick, which obviously flipped the channel after that one. But ultimately Pittsburgh wins it in the shootout. I mentioned yesterday in the pod, Patrick Laine, obviously getting benched his 4th game in Columbus under John Tortorella, and they both addressed it. He took it the right way, and hopefully he can learn from it. But last night was his first game back. Columbus was in Chicago to battle the Blackhawks, and strange enough, Patrick Laine led all forwards in ice time with just over 20 minutes, 20:53. So that's a good sign for him that Torts did mean it. He's over it. It was one game, and you move on from that. But for Columbus, they're a team that's been all over the map this year when it comes to consistent play. Their defensive play has really struggled at times. Goaltending hasn't been as sharp as you'd like it to be. Merzlikins and Korpisalo both have kind of let in some soft goals and kind of knocked their team out of position a bunch of times. But last night, Laine plays, like I said, the most minutes, but it was a goal fest in Chicago. 6 goals in the 3rd period alone. 6-5 win for Columbus, but it was really dramatic at the end. 17-19 at the 17-19 mark, Michael Del Zotto scores his first goal of the year. He was a late signing to Columbus. He's been a good addition, good heart and soul guy playing in Anaheim the last couple of years. So that happens. Then with just over a minute left, Kevin Stenlund scores the game-winning goal to make it 6-5 Columbus. And again, 6 goals in the 3rd period, 2 goals in the last 3 minutes for Columbus to escape with the victory, not give Chicago any points, which has been what Chicago's been doing. They've been going to overtime or a shootout, it seems like every night. But last night they couldn't hang on. But a good win for Columbus. Obviously the big story was the benching, but you come back, you win a shootout, a big shootout, you get a bunch of different goal scorers. Michael Del Zotto, Stenlund, Atkinson scored a shorthanded goal last night. So they're spreading the wealth when it comes to goal scoring. But hopefully Laine can continue to grow here. I think he's got Jack Roslovic has played great since arriving in Columbus. I think Laine's been good too. But just take everything in stride. Hopefully that, things turn around with him and Torts. I think Torts is a guy that's going to give him every opportunity as long as he continues to earn it. But Columbus, again, the Central Division, they're right there with the likes of Dallas and Carolina and Florida. So they're going to be battling all year. It's key that you beat the Chicagos. It's key that you beat the Detroits in your division because they're just not as talented as you, and you need to take those points to them. It's like in the Canadian division playing Ottawa right now. You need to beat Ottawa every time you play them. And we've seen a lot of the out west teams, that's how they've actually gotten wins. Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg last night. You beat Ottawa, it's still the same 2 points. It's not worth as much in the meter of your confidence as a team. And maybe, a pundit like me is going to say, well, I don't have as much faith in Edmonton because all they can beat is Ottawa. But, for your team confidence, it can do wonders. So, but yeah, Columbus is going to be an interesting team to watch all year. Laine can walk after this year. So if it doesn't go well, he can just say, I'm going to exit stage left. I'm going to hit free agency. Hopefully I can get some money elsewhere. But I think for him, I think he wants to kind of show people that he can play for a tough coach. He played for one in Paul Maurice, not as tough as Torts, but again, a guy who's kind of old school. He's been around a long time. If he can go to Torts, figure out his game, play as a teammate and not as an individual, I think it'll keep him in Columbus because they'll pay him because they'll want that superstar potential. But even if he does that and money's not where it needs to be on both sides, he can at least flaunt that when he gets to, the table, when they're negotiating table and say, hey, I did this in Columbus for a full year. I know how to play good defensive hockey. I know how to be a good teammate. I know how to be held accountable. I can take it. Let's see what we can do in the offseason when it comes to conditioning. I want to get better at it. And when I come into camp, I want to score 50 goals. So for Laine, for Torts, I think it could be, a great relationship where Columbus is going to succeed if Laine scores goals and does the things right. But Columbus, Laine will also succeed if he toes the line of sorts with Torts and plays the role of a good soldier on this team full of guys that truly some of them are cast off, some of them are just still trying to earn a paycheck every week with their play. But good on Laine, good on Torts for giving him the ice time, and obviously Columbus comes out with a big victory. A couple notes in the Canadian division. Wasn't the biggest night for me to watch that division, but Montreal, they lose their second in a row in back-to-back nights. They get shut out by the Edmonton Oilers, which is never a good thing with Edmonton's goaltending, but Edmonton's starting to get some scoring from their depth players. Jujhar Khaira scoring last night. Tyson Barrie on the power play. They've won 3 straight after beating Ottawa twice on Monday and Tuesday. But for Edmonton, they found their game a little bit. I think they've been playing more consistent hockey, so they can flaunt that a little bit. But for Montreal, it was just kind of a tired effort. They didn't have a lot of jump, not a lot of steam there, and I'm sure they'll want to bring it Saturday against Toronto. I'm sure it didn't sit well that they battled hard third period, but just couldn't put another one past Freddie to tie the game. But Saturday will be another big game for them. They got Toronto again. They're 5 points behind them right now. They both played an even amount of games, so there's nothing to make up. But I don't think this is the sky is falling moment in Montreal. I know a lot of Leafs fans want it to be, but as easy as a cakewalk as this division has been so far, and I don't think Montreal is going to fall into that category. I see Montreal and Winnipeg a step above the other Western Canadian teams, but I like the direction they're going in Montreal. Like I said all year, they built a team. They couldn't find the net last night. Maybe missing an elite goal scorer really hurt them last night. But back-to-back games where the depth of the teams that beat them got the better of them. Jujhar Khaira scoring last night. I mentioned Tyson Barrie. You need some goals from the likes of a Corey Perry maybe, or a Romanov. The defenseman that maybe Brett Kulak. Just guys that wouldn't score every game, but just depth guys that contribute. And Montreal's got plenty of those where you look at their first line, you look at their third line, you really can't point out a difference. I mean, I'm going to say the first line is Drouin, Suzuki, and Anderson because Anderson's on it. I mean, that's just my personal preference. And I think he's changed Jonathan Drouin's game, and I don't think that's really debatable. But again, they got Toronto Saturday. I'm sure Toronto will want to beat them 2 in a row. That'll mean a lot to Toronto, because Toronto, I mean, if they beat Toronto plays Montreal Saturday, if they win that, then they got Ottawa twice next week. So, that should be a little bit of a run here for Toronto, where if they can beat Montreal, they should have 2 wins in the bank against a team with five points in the division and only 2 wins this whole season. So a big game Saturday. Obviously, they jump 7 points ahead of them in the standings too. So that's tough to make up for Montreal as the season goes on. But good for Edmonton. Again, they've moved into the 4 spot with this win, and they're starting to find their game a little bit. I still don't think they're consistent enough, but they're playing hard, and you got to give them that at least, they're contributing without McDavid's only got 3 points in his last 3 games. Obviously that's a point per game, but the last couple of weeks he's just been tearing up the NHL. So that's just news and notes there. Vancouver struggles continue. Last night they lose another one. They lose their 6th in a row, all in regulation, to Calgary. They play Calgary another three times in a row. Obviously Saturday night, the back half of Hockey Day in Canada, where after Toronto, Montreal, it'll be Calgary, Vancouver again. But 6 straight regulation losses, and it's got to be so frustrating for Travis Green. I don't think he's in the walk year of his contract. If he's fired midway through the season, that's ridiculous that Jim Benning is allowed to fire another coach. I could see both of them being fired together. But I don't think Travis Green deserves that. He got that team to a second round Game 7 last year. And it's not his fault that they didn't bring back Tanev. They didn't bring back Markstrom. And is that everything that's wrong with this team? No, but it's certainly, we see Quinn Hughes. He's getting tons of points, but that's the thing about statistics. Sometimes they're really misleading. And I mentioned that on this podcast about plus minus. And I bicker with my parents about this all the time. And, I can watch my sister's games and I can tell you a good plus from a bad plus. If you're +3, but you don't even make an exit zone pass, you're just standing there like a garden gnome. Well, that doesn't mean you played a good game. If you look at the stat sheet, you can say you scored a great game. In my playing days, I might have scored a goal 5 minutes into the game. If I dogged it the next 2 periods, did I really play that well? No. So again, stats are misleading with Quinn Hughes. He's turning the puck over. We saw against Toronto Monday night, Mikheyev just blew him up, and he found Kerfoot wide open, put it in the back of the net. That's just bad defensive play. He's got a terrible plus minus, but again, that minus stings because he had the puck. He got wrestled off the puck as the other defenseman who was behind the net. What did he do wrong in that play? He was waiting for a pass from Quinn Hughes that didn't come. So looking at a box score after a game is not how you should evaluate a team or how they played. Again, even for shot totals for me, I'm hesitant because if you watch a game, you can look at shots and you say, okay, that was really a shot. There's stuff they count as a shot that's ridiculous, like a dump in and a goalie goes out and plays it. It's a shot sometimes. So I think you need to everything with a grain of salt. Like in today's world, it can't be taken literal. That's when, shit's really gonna hit the fan. That's when things are taken literally. But for Vancouver, they lose 3-1. Again, it's got to be tough for them to lose to Jacob Markstrom last night because he played really well. And him playing really well against the old team. Obviously, I didn't think Demko played bad, but only getting 1 goal, and it's from the bottom 6, and it's tough right now in Vancouver. 6 straight regulation law. I think Saturday is a virtual must win for them. They still got 3 against Calgary, but you need to win 2 of them. For me, you got to get 2 of them. So you at least get some confidence, start feeling better about yourselves, get some points. They played more games than any other team in hockey right now. So it's not like you're playing games to make up. You gotta get some of these wins here. And Vancouver has struggled mightily in the past couple of weeks. Playing Ottawa was their saving grace, but as we see, you play Ottawa doesn't mean you're going to rattle off a bunch of wins. That's just not how this works sometimes. So yeah, Vancouver, good win for Calgary. They've been a team that's been a little inconsistent. When they played Toronto, they really didn't bring it. They didn't have that juice. I think one of my guys, Chuck, didn't really have a huge impact in those games, other than Jake Muzzin flipping a puck at him. But when he can get involved, when he can get invested in a game, and then at first 5 minutes, I think it really shifts Calgary as a team, because that's when the team reacts to his energy, to his compete level, and then they start to play. And playing Vancouver, I think they feel that a little bit. The Battle of Alberta wasn't a physical game like I thought it would be, but Tkachuk was invested. He's ready to go, and he can make an impact on the ice. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, these two teams meet another 3 times in a row, but I don't mind these series. Obviously for St. Louis and Arizona, it's brutal right now. If you guys don't know, with the whole COVID situation in the Western Division, St. Louis and Arizona are playing 7 games in a row against each other. It's basically a playoff series. And, Arizona's won 3 of the first 4. They play again tonight. That's got to be brutal. To only play that team, and you see them all the time. And again, after the series, they won't play again, I don't believe, this season. They're just putting games in because of teams away due to COVID. But it's a mess right now. It's a mess right now for what's going on. But we'll see what happens. I told you I'd break some news if I got any, so I'll do that right now. Novak Djokovic just defeated Taylor Fritz in 5 sets at the Australian Open, obviously overcoming that injury and winning ultimately. So he moves on. Dominic Thiem moves on, and the men's draw is starting to look pretty stacked at the Aussie Open. But big win for Djokovic, the world number 1, to stay in the Open, and we'll see how that injury affects him longer term here in the tournament. But yeah, a lot of good again. The Vegas LA game. San Jose, the LAs. They're tough to get excited for. I'll watch those games on a Friday night when there's the one game. What the NHL should do a little bit more, they put only a couple games on for a couple of Fridays. They should put those LA, San Jose on a Friday night as a standalone, started at 10 or 11. And I think people are going to tune in to watch that game, and maybe you can appreciate it a little bit more. You can watch, Anderson Dolan, Drew Doughty had 3 assists last night, playing 25 minutes. Austin Wagner, Carl Gunstrom, a former Maple Leaf prospect. I think that's a smarter way to market. I think they struggle with the marketing the Western Division. And, there's some good, you look at the top of that, St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado. Those are 3 of the best teams in the NHL, way better than the Canadian division. But again, we wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that if you just watch Sportsnet or TSN, because they never mention them. It's never even thought about. It's all the Canadian division all the time. And I get it. You got to cater to the Canadian market. But that doesn't mean you can just go mute about all the other great teams that are in the league. St. Louis won a cup 2 years ago. Vegas went to a cup final 3 years ago. Colorado's looking like a fringe Stanley Cup contender. You probably should market those teams before 4 minutes before you see them. I'm not a marketing genius. I took a couple classes in university, but you're going to see those teams deep in the playoffs, and with no knowledge or anything on them, I don't think that's the best strategy. Why not try to promote these teams a little bit more rather than, oh, great, we got Ottawa, Winnipeg again. We got Ottawa, Winnipeg here Thursday night. Can't wait for Edmonton versus Ottawa, or Edmonton, Montreal, Vancouver, Montreal for the 8th time this year. Well, who cares? Vancouver's not going to be playing when the likes of Vegas and St. Louis are, and it's a really good series. I think if whatever happens, say Colorado finishes first, that means Vegas is going to play St. Louis in the first round of the playoffs. I'll sign up for that. I don't know about you, but I'm fine with that. Then the 2 winners play each other. What series would be better in the playoffs? Because those 2 teams are heavy as hell. They're really skilled. What series will be better? I guarantee you the Toronto-Edmonton series is not going to be better than that one. And if it is for you, well, we enjoy hockey for different reasons, I guess. But it's just you can do both. You can talk about Toronto for your 18 hours a day, but there's 24, so you can talk 6 hours about the other divisions and kind of the teams there. And just a thought. It's just a thought. I don't know. Again, Sportsnet and TSN are probably not going to be looking to hire me because I'm not the hype guy for the Canadian division, or just reiterating the same point 80 times during these radio programs. But again, busy night in the NHL, a lot of games, only 2 tonight with Boston playing the Rangers for the second time in 3 nights. Boston won Wednesday, really ugly effort for them, but they still get the victory over the Rangers. And then St. Louis and Arizona, where, Arizona's been getting the better of St. Louis. And I think Arizona's a pretty good team. They're a team to watch. Connor Garland, the former Moncton Wildcat, leads the team in assists. He's also a good goal scorer. Darcy Kemper is starting to find his game in that. He's one of the more underappreciated goaltenders, just being so big, but also really skilled and a guy to keep your eye on when it comes to potential trades. I know they don't want to move him, but they're a team that's been wanting to unload money. Trying to trade captain Oliver Ekman-Larsson last offseason. So could Darcy Kemper become available? If Arizona keeps winning, I doubt it. But if I'm Colorado, I kick tires on Darcy Kemper and see what the ask is, because he would instantly make them a Stanley Cup threat. And I think it would propel them into first place in that division when it comes to who do you see winning it. I would put Colorado first with Kemper. I like him that much, and what he brings to the table. So we'll see what happens there, but interesting name to keep your eye on. Obviously, that would be an interdivision trade, but again, after this year, Colorado goes back to the Central, Arizona goes back to the Western Division. So you play each other less. It wouldn't be as big of a problem. So just something to keep your eye on. The Australian Open, I mentioned that off the top, and then just with Djokovic winning. But last night we saw 2 Canadians do battle, 2 really good friends, and Denis Shapovalov, the world number 15, against Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's coming into this tournament unranked. However, it was Felix who beat Denis again. I mentioned Felix beat Denis at the Rogers Cup a few years ago. He beats Denis last night in straight sets. Really impressive win. 9 sets for Felix played, and he's won all 9 of them. He's been dominant so far in this tournament. He goes to a round of 16. That's only the second time this has happened in his career. He's a kid that's got a lot of power. I still think he makes some rookie mistakes where he's a young guy, but for Denis Shapovalov, I think this is so frustrating for him because last year was really his breakout year where we saw him go in a deep run quarterfinal at a major, and he couldn't do it at the French. 3rd round exit here on hard courts where he had his success at the Open. It's just, where are you, Denis? Again, you play Felix, but you're the favorite coming in. He should have won this match on paper. But again, the errors, kind of his temperament, he lost it early in the first set and kind of didn't gain back his composure. Felix had all of that. And, as much as Denis was really the spotlight guy last year, I think Felix Auger-Aliassime, can be the next great men's tennis player. And I'm not going to say he's going to win a major, because I think it's been proven that it's really tough to win majors. Bianca won one, and she's been injured forever. Who knows if she wins another one? I would put money on her winning another one if she can stay healthy, but it's really hard to win in any sport. But again, with tennis, especially with men's tennis, for Denis, you got to win, and it's tough for him right now. Again, I still think he has a lot of promise. He's still young. He can find it, but I think this loss will sting with him for a while, because you want to have a chance to keep moving on, to keep improving. And he loses to Felix, guy younger than him, he's friends with. But if you keep losing your friends, and what's going to happen to you? And I worry about that for him. Also last night, Milos Raonic advanced with a 4-set win over Martin Fucsovics. He's lost 1 set so far. His serves look great. He's into the 4th round. I mean, this Milos is great on hard courts and grass. Obviously, grass is his best surface with just the way the ball bounces and things of that nature. But he's looked good. Obviously, 2 Canadian men into the round of 16 is an impressive feat for them. I don't know if I love their chances. Obviously, we're still waiting for the draw to come out to see if they're going to be playing, if one of them gets stacked up against Djokovic or if they get stuck with Medvedev or things of that nature. But 2 men into the round of 16 is a good thing for men's tennis. Obviously, Milos Raonic has had a tough time because he's been a top 10 player in the world, but he is never healthy. He's always got something lingering injury, usually right before a major, where he's like, well, I can't play the French, my knee's acting up and it's this and this. Obviously, he's a big server. He's a really tall guy, but I wish him all the best. I mean, for these guys, I hope we can at least play competitive matches. Sorry. Just play strong, play to win. And, speaking of winners, I mean, Serena Williams had a tough first set last night against Potapova, wins it in a tiebreak, and then cruises in the second set. I think that little bit of a test where she was down a break will do her better in the long run of the tournament. She could see that it wasn't going well and she had to adapt and figure it out. And she did. She broke back, then won it and kept going. For her, it hadn't been strange to see her lose in a third round or a round of 16 in the past number of tournaments. She's got a tough matchup with Sabalenka in the quarter round of 16. Sorry, Sabalenka is a big server. She's got some power like Serena does, so that'll be interesting to see how she counter punches that. But it's hard to bet against Serena Williams. Like I said yesterday, you can make the argument that she is the greatest athlete in the history of sports. Men or women, it doesn't matter. She's that good. But again, she's in a draw with Naomi Osaka, which will be tough for her. She's got, there's some good matches with Muguruza is still around. So we'll see what happens with the women's draw. But, again, like I said last night, Dominic Thiem comes back from 2 sets down, and Nick Kyrgios to win it in 5 sets. A lot of moving parts. Tsitsipas winning in 5 sets the day before. So, a lot of big names getting scared, but not ultimately pulling the chute just yet or being eliminated, but excuse me. But it's good to see from Serena. It's more interesting in the tournament when she keeps winning. I think her playing Osaka in the semifinal would really be the hype point of the tournament for me. I think Osaka's the future of women's tennis. I think she's the best women's tennis player currently, but you're playing against, the greatest champion in tennis history in Serena Williams. So we'll see what that brings. But it was a great night in the world of sports. A lot of hockey, some basketball last night. Nothing too memorable. The Boston Celtics beating the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors have been slowly climbing the standings. They were obviously started the season 2-8, but they've won a bunch lately, and they've actually risen to 5th in the East heading into last night. But they lose to the Celtics without Marcus Smart. And what it really proved to me last night with the Raptors is that they're not an elite team. And that's been put to bed for me. You lose to Boston. They've lost to Milwaukee this year. They lost to Portland. These 500 teams they've been losing to, above 500. You're beating the teams that you should beat, but the elite teams are still getting the better of them. And I take from that it's not going to get much better. It's going to be tough for them to overcome that. Charlotte might come in and say, okay, well, we're done. We're going to be out of the playoffs, whatever. But if you're the 6th seed, say, and you're playing Boston or Milwaukee, possibly Philly, that's not an easy win for you. That's a difficult win. And it wouldn't be a first round matchup I'm super pumped about. Them getting the 4 or 5 seed, I think, could propel them into a second round where they play Ferb or, just anybody. But it's, I don't, 4 or 5 seed, they could maybe play Indiana. But again, I don't like their chances if they finish below the 4th or 5th seed, because you're going to have to play one of the 3 big boys in the East. And I don't think they have enough firepower to overcome that. So, yeah, just a good effort all in all, but from the Raptors lately. But they lose one on a back-to-back, and again, the Celtics with the Milwaukee and Philly losing in Portland last night, but they look like the 3 best teams in the East. And then after that, there seems to be a big divide between 4 and 8 when it comes to the creme de la creme in this division. But like I said, a lot happening this weekend. We got Hockey Day in Canada. We got some golf. We got NBA action. But it's going to be a lot happening this weekend. Saturday's got a huge slate. I think 12 games in the NHL on Saturday. Almost every team will be in action, including starting at 4 o'clock between Winnipeg and Ottawa on the first triple header for Hockey Day in Canada. And, what these are important games for Winnipeg because you want to get those points. You're playing a weaker team. For Ottawa, they played better than Winnipeg last night, but the goaltending's been terrible. They sent down Marcus Hogberg, who looks the part when it comes to not being NHL goaltending, not being ready. He's not ready to play. They had sent him down. They called up Joey Duckhorn, who was an NCAA goaltender, to back up Matt Murray. And it's ugly right now. It's ugly. But Ottawa, they only get 2 wins. And, moral victories in sports are really, as Pat Quinn liked to say, a loser's race. But that's all really Ottawa can do right now. Vancouver's not far off when it comes to just having little excuses for why your team has been terrible. But we'll see what happens. See what happens this weekend. Like I said, a lot of games. Tampa, Florida rematch. Pittsburgh Isles rematch. Pittsburgh playing Washington on Sunday on NBC. This obviously be the first Sunday without football, so that would be a sad day for myself. And that realization come 2 o'clock when I'm like, what the hell am I going to do today? But yeah, that's really all I got for you guys today. It's been fun. Again, just check. It's good to learn about some other teams and what they're doing. But everybody, just enjoy your weekend. Obviously, it's a long weekend with family day or whatever. Be nice if we had some vaccines coming through, but we'll get them in a couple of years for sure. But everybody, stay safe. Have a good weekend, and I'll be back tomorrow to talk with Creighton Fillmore about our Mount Rushmore of athletes in sports, which should be a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. Tomorrow, just about after lunch. So be ready for that. But everybody have a great Friday, and we'll talk soon.